consider contractual obligations. Did the bid include specific requirements for materials or code compliance? If not, the electrical contractor may have been within their rights to use different materials. Also consider the HA approval. The local authority having jurisdiction approved the installation, which suggests that it met the minimum safety standards. Consider the long-term performance. While electrical metallic tubing, EMT, and set screw fittings are generally acceptable for indoor use, they may not be suitable for the harsh conditions of an agricultural installation. Corrosion can lead to premature failure and safety hazards. As an electrician, consider your professional responsibility because you have a responsibility to provide safe and reliable installations. If you believe the installation is not appropriate for the environment, you may want to raise concerns. If you decide to complain or gripe, consider these steps. Firstly, contact the electrical contractor. Express your concerns politely and professionally. Explain why you believe the materials are unsuitable and how they could affect the long-term performance of the installation. Secondly, provide evidence to support your claims, such as photos of the materials used, code references, or industry best practices. Thirdly, be willing to compromise. It may not be possible to have the installation completely replaced, but you may be able to negotiate a compromise, such as replacing the corroded components or adding protective measures. Document your concerns. Keep a record of all communication with the electrical contractor and the HA, including any concessions or agreements reached. Ultimately, the decision of whether or not to complain is up to you. Consider the potential consequences and take steps to protect your professional reputation and the safety of the installation. Consider the environment the installation is in and what the National Electrical Code says about doing such work in these environments. Consider NEC Section 90.4. Enforcement. This code is intended to be suitable for mandatory application by governmental bodies exercising legal jurisdiction over electrical installations, and as such, certain terms and wording are prescribed using shall to indicate mandatory requirements. Shall indicates a mandatory requirement. Permissive rules are characterized by the word permitted. Mandatory requirements shall be followed. Consider NEC Section 110.3b. Installation and use. Equipment that is listed, labeled, or identified for a specific purpose shall be installed and used in accordance with any instructions included in a listing, labeling, or identification. That means if the product has instructions on how to install or use the equipment, you must follow it exactly. Think about NEC Section 110.12. Mechanical execution of work. Electrical equipment shall be installed in a neat and workmanlike manner. Consider the following points when determining if the work is neat and workmanlike. Cable shall be supported by the building structure in such a manner that the cable will not be damaged by normal building use. Raceways, cable assemblers, boxes, cabinets, and fittings shall be securely fastened in place. Consider NEC Section 300.6. Protection against corrosion. Metal raceways, cable armor, boxes, cable sheathing, cabinets, elbows, couplings, fittings, supports, and support hardware shall be of materials suitable for the environment in which they are installed. They shall be protected from corrosion by coating with suitable corrosion-resistant materials, painting, or similar approved means. Consider NEC Section 300.15a. Boxes, conduits, or fittings required. A box shall be installed at each outlet and switch point for concealed knob and tube wiring. Fittings and connectors shall be used only with the specific wiring methods for which they are designed and listed. Where more than one conductor enters a raceway, box, or fitting, a fitting or box shall be provided with a bushing to protect the conductors from abrasion unless the design of the outlet, fitting, or box is such as to prevent abrasion. Consider NEC Section 314.40d. Damp or wet locations. In damp or wet locations, boxes and fittings shall be placed or equipped so as to prevent moisture from entering or accumulating within the box or fitting. Boxes and fittings installed in wet locations shall be listed for use in wet locations. That means the boxes have to be rated for wet locations. Consider using an M4 enclosure or better. Consider NEC Section 358.10 uses permitted. End and associated fittings shall be permitted for both exposed and concealed work. Consider NEC Section 358.12 uses not permitted. Electrical metallic tubing end shall not be used under the following conditions. Firstly, where subject to severe physical damage. Secondly, where protected from corrosion solely by enamel. Thirdly, in cinder concrete or cinder fill were subject to permanent moisture unless protected on all sides by a layer of non-cinder concrete at least 50 mm or 2 inches thick, or unless the tubing is at least 450 mm or 18 inches under the fill. Fourthly, in subject to strong corrosive influences. If the agricultural environment is considered to be subject to strong corrosive influences, then EMT should not be used. Review NEC Chapter 5, Special Occupancies. Different types of occupancies have their own rules that must be followed. Consider if this agricultural installation is considered a commercial garage, aircraft hangar, or other special occupancy. Article 547 addresses agricultural buildings. According to NEC Section 547.1 scope, the provisions of this article shall apply to agricultural buildings or parts of buildings and other areas or locations of premises where conditions such as excessive dust, dirt, and dampness exist due to the type of operations. The types of agricultural buildings that are covered include areas where poultry, livestock, or other animals are housed, and areas where crops or agricultural products are processed, stored, or packaged. Section 547.3 defines an agricultural building as a structure designed and constructed to house farm implements, livestock, poultry, or other animal or plant life. Section 547.4 Wiring methods. In agricultural buildings where dust and earth accumulate, or where exposed to water or corrosive liquids, Article 547.4 requires that wiring methods shall be Type NM, Type NMC, Type TC, or other cables or raceways suitable for the location, with approved fittings and boxes. Article 547.5 Equipotential planes requires that all metal equipment and metal piping systems be bonded together to form an equipotential plane to minimize voltage differences. This equipotential plane must be connected to the grounding electrode system. Section 547.8 requires all electrical equipment to be suitable for the environment. Motors, lighting fixtures, and other electrical equipment exposed to dust, dirt, or corrosive liquids must be rated for those conditions. This usually means using equipment that is listed for use in wet locations or is otherwise protected from the environment. Section 547.9 requires all electrical equipment to be readily accessible for inspection and maintenance. This includes providing adequate clearance around equipment and ensuring that equipment is not obstructed by other objects. Section 547.10 GFCI protection requires that all 125-volt single-phase 15 and 20 amp receptacles installed in areas accessible to livestock have GFCI protection. Section 547.11 Surge protection requires that all agricultural buildings have surge protection installed to protect sensitive electronic equipment from voltage surges. The surge protection device must be listed for use in agricultural buildings. Section 547.12 Wiring for fixed equipment requires that all wiring for fixed equipment be installed in a raceway system or otherwise protected from physical damage. The wiring must also be suitable for the environment. Section 547.13 Receptacles requires that all receptacles be of the grounding type and be installed in a weatherproof enclosure. The receptacles must also be protected by a GFCI if they are installed in an area accessible to livestock. Section 547.14 Luminaires requires that all luminaires be listed for use in wet locations or otherwise protected from the environment. The luminaires must also be installed in a manner that prevents the accumulation of dust and dirt. Section 547.15 Motors requires that all motors be listed for use in wet locations or otherwise protected from the environment. The motors must also be installed in a manner that prevents the accumulation of dust and dirt. Section 547.16 Service equipment requires that all service equipment be located in a readily accessible location and be protected from physical damage. The service equipment must also be suitable for the environment. Section 547.17 Grounding requires that all electrical equipment be grounded in accordance with Article 250. The grounding electrode system must be connected to the equipotential plane. Section 547.18 Bonding requires that all metal equipment and metal piping systems be bonded together to form an equipotential plane. The bonding jumpers must be sized in accordance with Table 250.102. Section 547.19 Wiring methods for Class Roman II, Division 1 and 2 locations requires that all wiring in Class Roman II, Division 1 and 2 locations be installed in accordance with Article 502. Class Roman II locations are those where combustible dust is present. Section 547.20 Surge protection for sensitive electronic equipment requires that all sensitive electronic equipment be protected by a surge protection device. The surge protection device must be listed for use in agricultural buildings. Section 547.21 Wiring methods for receptacles requires that all receptacles be of the grounding type and be installed in a weatherproof enclosure. The receptacles must also be protected by GFCI if they are installed in an area accessible to livestock. Section 547.22 Luminaires requires that all luminaires be listed for use in wet locations or otherwise protected from the environment. The luminaires must also be installed in a manner that prevents the accumulation of dust and dirt. Section 547.23 Motors requires that all motors be listed for use in wet locations or otherwise protected from the environment. The motors must also be installed in a manner that prevents the accumulation of dust and dirt. Section 547.24 Service equipment requires that all service equipment be located in a readily accessible location and be protected from physical damage. The service equipment must also be suitable for the environment. Section 547.25 Grounding requires that all electrical equipment be grounded in accordance with Article 250. The grounding electrode system must be connected to the equipotential plane. Section 547.26 Bonding requires that all metal equipment and metal piping systems be bonded together to form an equipotential plane. The bonding jumpers must be sized in accordance with Table 250.102. Article 547 provides specific requirements for electrical installations in agricultural buildings. These requirements are designed to protect people, livestock, and equipment from electrical hazards. It is important to consult the NEC and any applicable local codes before installing or modifying electrical equipment in an agricultural building. When working in agricultural buildings, it is important to take precautions to protect yourself from electrical hazards. Firstly, always de-energize circuits before working on them. Secondly, use appropriate personal protective equipment, such as rubber gloves and insulated tools. Thirdly, be aware of the potential for shock hazards from livestock and other animals. In agricultural buildings, electrical safety is of paramount importance. By following the requirements of the NEC and taking appropriate precautions, you can help to ensure the safety of people, livestock, and equipment.